As it becomes increasingly obvious that global warming is entering doomsday scenario territory, the fossil fuel industry is ramping up their propaganda war. Last week, the so-called non-governmental International Panel on Climate Change, the NIPCC, released its fifth report debunking the findings of the UN's IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. According to the NIPCC report, which was published by the conservative think tank, the Heartland Institute, global warming, nothing to worry about. It's just a natural process that's happened hundreds of times before. If anything, the report concludes, global warming will be a good thing because extra CO2 in the atmosphere means more food for plants to breathe. Seriously. Not surprisingly, Fox so-called News has picked up on the NIPCC report and is treating it like real science.
So an international group of scientists are now saying that they have debunked a recent report that came out of the UN on climate change. They're releasing their own findings. They say that the doom and gloom is all wrong, according to their science. Mike Tobin is live in Chicago. So good morning to you, Mike. What did they find?
Good. Well, there is no impending global crisis due to climate change. That is the conclusion, Martha, of a panel of scientists set up to examine alternatives to the conclusions of the UN Commission Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, about carbon emissions. The non-governmental International Panel on Climate Change, or NIPCC, concludes that there is more carbon in the atmosphere, but it will not cause catastrophic deadly storms. The human impact is small.
Right. If you're wondering why 97% of scientists around the world disagree with this NIPCC on global warming, well, the Heartland Institute's president, Joe Bass, says it's because the entire climate science community has been corrupted by environmentalists.
Standards have been lowered, peer review has been corrupted, and we can't trust what appears in our most prestigious journals anymore.
In reality, though, it's the NIPCC and the Heartland Institute that are behaving in a way that could be described as corrupt and dishonest. To quote Deep Throat, just follow the money. The Heartland Institute, the think tank that published the NIPCC report, gets a ton of money from the fossil fuel industry and its allies. In fact, it's received around $67 million over the past 30 years from donors like ExxonMobil, the Koch brothers, and the Scaife Foundation. All stand to get very, very rich. Well, maybe not the Scaife Foundation, but the others anyway, if we continue pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The NIPCC report's leading authors, meanwhile, are a virtual who's who of the climate denial industry. Dr. Fred Singer, the group's founder, has been pushing the lie that global warming isn't a big deal for decades now, and fossil fuel companies have helped him out all along the way. Another author, Craig Idso, actually used to work for coal giant Peabody Energy. Make no mistake about it, the NIPCC report is one giant scam created by the fossil fuel industry to trick the public into thinking that global warming is a lie. History, it seems, is repeating itself in the worst possible way. Back in the 1990s, the people behind the NIPCC climate change denial machine used to shill for another not-so-reputable industry, the tobacco industry. As lawsuits and congressional hearings turned public opinion against the tobacco industry, the Heartland Institute pushed out bunk study after bunk study claiming there was no connection between secondhand smoke and cancer. In 1998, for example, current Heartland president Joe Bass argued in a piece for the think tank's website that the EPA had to twist and torture its data to find a public health risk from secondhand smoke. The Heartland Institute's PR campaign was so crucial to the tobacco industry's cause that Philip Morris executive Tom Borelli actually listed supporting the Heartland Institute as one of his company's most important strategies in a 1993 memo called the 5-Year Plan. And at the same time as the Heartland Institute was towing the big tobacco party line, NIPCC founder Fred Singer was busy pumping out some blatant pro-tobacco propaganda of his own. In 1993, he joined up with the Philip Morris's favorite PR firm, APCO Associates, to debunk studies showing the link between secondhand smoke and cancer. All of this, of course, was done to protect the interests of giant tobacco companies who denied in front of Congress that nicotine was addictive.
Yes or no? Do you believe nicotine is not addictive?
I believe nicotine is not addictive, yes.
Mr. Johnston.
Congressman,
Cigarettes and nicotine clearly do not meet the classic definitions of addiction.
I don't believe that nicotine or our products are addictive.
I believe nicotine is not addictive.
I believe that nicotine is not addictive.
I believe that nicotine is not addictive.
And I too believe that nicotine is not addictive.
I thought lying to Congress was against the law. Anyhow, there are few coincidences in history. The fossil fuel industry today appears to be following the exact same script used by the tobacco industry in the 1990s. They're even using the same actors. You know, if you're an optimist, you might point to the tobacco companies or industry's settlement in the 1990s and say that, you know, eventually the truth will prevail and the bad guys will get outed. But remember, it took more than 30 years after Surgeon General Luther Terry warned the American people about the dangers of smoking to hold the tobacco industry accountable for the deaths it was causing and, frankly, continues to cause. With global warming, we may not have that kind of time. Some scientists think runaway climate change could kill off the human race in a matter of decades. It's time for the American people and the media to wake up and call out the climate denial industry for what it is, a scam, before it's too late. After all, the future of humanity is at stake.